As soon as the Golden State Warriors drafted Will Richard with the 56th overall pick at last month's NBA draft, there was immediate discussion over the potential ramifications for beloved veteran Gary Payton II. Nearly 3 weeks since the start of free agency, and Payton remains unsigned, while Richard has probably been the biggest positive to an otherwise uninspiring summer league campaign for the Warriors. Will Richard signing could mean the end for Gary Payton II. Across 6 summer league appearances dating back to the California Classic, Richard is now averaging 11.5 points for 0.3 rebounds, 1.5 assists, and 1.8 steals in 23 minutes per game. His three-point shooting hasn't quite been there at 43.1% from the floor and 20.7% from beyond the arc, but he's provided two-way impact that suggests there could be an NBA future in store. Following Golden State's last scheduled Summer League game against the Toronto Raptors on Friday, Monty Poole of NBC Sports Bay Area made the case for the franchise to sign Richard to a standard contract and put him on the main roster. At 6'4", with a 6'10" wingspan, Richard shows the kind of two-way effectiveness coach Steve Kerr and his staff are craving. He's 22 years old and probably would have the lowest salary on the roster. For someone who was the 56th overall selection in the 2025 draft, he plays like a keeper, Poole wrote. Even if the Warriors don't project Richard to be part of their fully healthy rotation next season, signing him to a standard contract could be vitally important in the front office navigating the payroll around the first or second apron. The minimum rookie scale contract for second-round picks next season is $1.27 million, which is enough of a difference to the veteran's minimum that it could play a big factor. Golden State could be left in a situation where they choose between signing Richard to a standard deal or re-signing Payton on the vet minimum, which would leave the young guard on a two-way contract. If the Warriors do sign Richard to the main roster, there would be little need for them to also bring back Payton, assuming they finalize a deal with DeAnthony Melton. Having Melton, Richard, and Payton on the roster seems like overkill, particularly when Golden State already have Stephen Curry, Brandon Podziemski, Buddy Hield, and even Moses Moody as prominent backcourt players. Payton has been around Golden State's Summer League squad earlier this week, but the 32-year-old has also been linked with a move to the Los Angeles Lakers following a notable change in agent. Richard and the Warriors will play their consolation Summer League game in Las Vegas on Saturday against the Cleveland Cavaliers starting at 4:30 Pacific Time. As the Golden State Warriors limp through a quiet July, anchored by an unresolved Jonathan Kuminga contract and no major free agent movement, front office whispers are growing louder. The 22-year-old forward, seeking at least a short-term deal north of $30 million, has made it clear his time in the Bay is nearing its end. Meanwhile, on the opposite coast, the Philadelphia 76ers are facing their own financial gridlock. Despite a dismal 24-58 finish last season, Philly is operating near the luxury tax apron and unable, or unwilling, to fully commit to restricted free agent Quentin Grimes, leaving him in limbo and eroding their cap flexibility. Enter a calculated chess move, a sign-and-trade that swaps two embattled young stars. Golden State offloads Jonathan Kuminga, addressing roster chemistry and freeing future financial wiggle room, while the Sixers could pivot by capturing a ready-made high-upside wing in Grimes, a player who averaged nearly 22 points in Philly's late-season surge. Proposed trade details. Golden State Warriors receive Quentin Grimes, sign-and-trade. Philadelphia 76ers receive Jonathan Kuminga, sign-and-trade. It's a high-risk, high-reward strategy that could give both teams what they want, so let's dive into how it could work. Needless to say, it would certainly make some interesting news if it were to happen. Golden State Warriors acquire a perfect system player. Golden State's front office has a head-smacking realization. They need a player who fits their motion offense, not merely raw potential. Enter Quentin Grimes, a polished 6'4" wing with spot-up shooting, smart energy, and playoff experience. Averaging 14.6 points for 0.3 rebounds and 3.0 assists on 46.7/38.5/75.7 splits last season, Grimes fills the exact 3 and D-fill slot Golden State desperately lacked after Jonathan Kuminga's development plateaued. He won't break the bank, but he'll ensure spacing around Stephen Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green, without forcing reckless ISO plays. More than just stats, Grimes offers the attitude this culture demands. He's the type of glue guy who buys into system basketball, track record from Houston to New York, then stepped up in Philly down the stretch, averaging nearly 22 points and solid defense in crucial games. Golden State needs that kind of veteran plasticity, someone who knows where to be on the court, how to rotate, and when to shut it down. Pairing him with Curry gives Steve Kerr a proven role player who won't embarrass the offense when gravity collapses. Sure, he's no star, but that's the point. He's perfect. Grimes brings consistency, fills locker room leadership gaps, and rounds out a rotation seeking balance. In a league where fit matters, Grimes would slot in without any drop-off or much of a learning curve. Philadelphia 76ers find the perfect long-term co-star for Tyrese Maxey. Philadelphia took a bite out of the offseason, but ended up with dull toys. They need creativity, youth, and immediate upside alongside Tyrese Maxey, and to be honest, Kuminga screams all of that. The 22-year-old flashed electric potential in spurts last year. His athleticism is explosive, and when he's locked in, he looks like a budding top-of-the-rotation wing. In Philly's dog day stretch, they won't settle. They need boom or bust upside now, and Kuminga comes in to match that perfectly. Even better? Kuminga's eagerness to leave Golden State might translate into a prove-it mindset in Philly. Restricted free agent limbo hasn't damaged his swagger. Instead, reports suggest he'd take a one-year, trade-friendly deal to prove worth, just what a Sixers rebuild needs. Low-risk optimism. And let's be honest, 24-58 last year didn't just sting, it scared everyone. Kuminga brings electricity, a highlight reel mentality, and that's the type of intangible that ignites fans and scares opponents. Pair Kuminga's leap-the-floor attitude with Maxey's relentless craft, and you've got a base nucleus with both swagger and skill. Philly's blueprint needs wings who can create, defend, and grow, not just score. Kuminga checks all boxes. He'd experiment alongside Maxey's ball-dominant offense and could push the Sixers into a dangerous young core on the rise, especially if the franchise can pivot away from Joel Embiid and Paul George next. A rational and perfect win-win swap between Warriors and Sixers. Let's cut to the chase. Warriors need floor spacing, Philly needs boom potential. That's why a Grimes for Kuminga sign-and trade is a no-brainer. Golden State frees cap space, gains stability in a playoff-tested system player, and lowers risk, without mortgaging future assets. Meanwhile, Philly abducts potential star power, trades a mid-level restricted free agent, and builds around Maxey without losing draft capital. It's what front desks live for: symmetry, logic, and mutual gain. From a cap standpoint, both sides win. Golden State dodges Kuminga's $30 million a year ask and gains a cheaper, control build in Grimes. Philly takes the high-upside deal while passing off a short-term, system-fit guard. It's rare to see a swap where neither team has to eat bad money or overpay, not a frequent occurrence in the NBA. That's smart money. Narrative-wise, it's perfect drama. Warriors move on from their almost star and lean on a perfect fit. Sixers double down on youth with a winning core. It would also give critics and media members plenty of talking points, because it would also mean the Sixers finally make a smart move when it comes to their roster for once. Restricted free agency often is a brutal spot for a player to find himself. While it sounds great that a player is free to sign an offer sheet with any team, which his current team has the right to match, the reality is far trickier. Players aren't moving teams in free agency much anymore. Players of note tend to be traded, so teams aren't hoarding much cap space, so few teams can even make a sizable offer. Even if a team has the cap space and covets a restricted free agent, they generally have to overpay to the point that the current team will not match. Once the offer sheet is signed, the new team has to sit around for 48 hours of prime free agency signings with their money tied up until the current team decides to match or not. It often leads to stalemates. There are 4 in the NBA right now, all with a similar theme and, in a few cases, dollar amounts. Let's break them down. Jonathan Kuminga. The expectation going into the offseason was that Jonathan Kuminga and the Warriors would find a sign-and-trade deal that would get Kuminga to a new home out from under Steve Kerr, and the Warriors would get something in return to help them win now in the Stephen Curry era. Both sides were ready to part ways. Except, no trade has come together. Sacramento has been the name most often linked to Kuminga, but no deal is reportedly even close to being finalized. There are reports that the Bulls have some interest and have talked to the Warriors, but again there seems to be no traction toward a trade. Golden State does not want Nikola Vucevic back in a deal. The Suns have reportedly had early discussions about a sign-in trade, and they are intrigued by him, but nothing is close because the Warriors want a first-round pick in any Kuminga trade, and the Suns lack draft capital, Jake Fisher reports. Kuminga wants a deal in the 4-year, $120 million range, $30 million a season or more, but the Warriors are thinking more like $20 million a year over 3 years, a contract they could flip in a trade at the February deadline or next summer. That's where the standoff lies. Last season, Kuminga averaged 15.3 points and 4.6 rebounds per game, but shot 30.5% from three-point range, with a true shooting percentage of .535, well below the league average. If, or more likely when, the Warriors and Kuminga settle this and he returns to the team on a shorter contract, two things have to happen. One, Steve Kerr has just to trust Kuminga, play him heavy minutes, and let him play through some mistakes. Two, Kuminga has to show he deserves those minutes with a level of play where other teams would be willing to trade something of real value for him. Cam Thomas. Cam Thomas's situation became very public this week when the Brooklyn guard ranted against the Ringer's Zach Lowe for stating publicly what the league consensus is on Thomas. Financially, this is reportedly similar to Kuminga's situation. Thomas wants a deal in the $30 million a year range, but the Nets are thinking more like $20 million. The Nets currently have about $17 million in cap space and can create up to about $25 million by waiving a couple of players with non-guaranteed contracts. Thomas doesn't have to like it. Maybe he can change it. But what Lowe said about the league's perception of him is spot on, and in a world of tax aprons, he's going to struggle to get the money he seeks from anyone. This is another situation where, whatever deal the sides eventually agree upon, Brooklyn will want it to be something they can easily flip in the future in another trade. Don't expect this one to be resolved anytime soon. Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey put up numbers for the Bulls last season, and after the All-Star break averaged 21.2 points, 10.7 rebounds, and 9.3 assists a game for a Chicago team that went 17-10 for that stretch. See if this sounds familiar. Giddey and his representation want around $30 million a season, but Chicago's management is thinking more like $20 million a year, a more tradable contract. There are also questions around the league about whether a team can build a contender with Giddey as one of the top two options, because he is not a strong defender and needs to have the ball in his hands to be effective. Quentin Grimes. This is the least contentious of the outstanding restricted free agents. Grimes wants to be a Sixer. He thrived after being traded there, and Philly intends to bring him back. The only question is the money and number and years for the 25-year-old, and the sides are still negotiating. Philadelphia reportedly wants a contract of at least 3 years. Grimes in a rotation with Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, and just-drafted VJ Edgecombe could be the future in Philly, whatever happens with Joel Embiid and Paul George. This will be worked out. It just might end up being closer to training camp.